What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I wanted to share a quick video with my best settings for controller in the Black Ops 7 beta. Keeping in mind, most of these settings are literally identical to Black Ops 6, even though the settings didn't save and carry over automatically, so you do have to set them up yourself. So I wasn't even going to make this video because of that. However, there are a few key settings that are new and different with Black Ops 7, and I've had enough people requesting a video like this that I thought I'd throw one together for you guys. So let's dive into this with my controller settings. Keeping in mind, this is what works for me. I definitely encourage you guys to make adjustments to better suit you, but this will at least give you a starting point to work from. And my button layout is tactical. I like all of my movement without having to take my thumb off the analog stick to like crouch or slide, for instance. So that's why I like tactical. For my sensitivity values, I like 1.65 for both horizontal and vertical sensitivity. And then we also do some adjustments to my aim down sight sensitivity, but we'll look at that in just a little bit. For me personally, I like vibration off. I just find it to be an unnecessary distraction, so I always turn that one off. And then dead zones, very important. You want to be definitely lowering, especially your right stick minimum dead zone, as low as possible without getting too much stick drift. For me and my controller, 3 seems to be a good point right now, but you definitely want to get down within that like 2 to 5 range, regardless of your controller, I would say. Then to the next tab, our aiming tab here, we have our sensitivity multiplier, but I actually adjust this with the advanced aim settings. And with this, I use a gradual transition timing, the dynamic response curve, but I just leave this at 1. I know a lot of people like dropping this value, and if that works for you, that's great. I know a lot of people like going to like 0.8, for instance, but for me, 1 just feels nice on dynamic, so I stick with that. And then I do have custom sensitivity per zoom. So I turn this on, and with this, anything 5x or below, I like a 0.7 ADS multiplier. That gives me a lot more precision when aiming down sight with the average gun out there. However, it does limit my ability to turn quickly, so if I do need to turn quickly, I just come out of aiming down sight, and that suddenly allows me to turn a lot faster, and then I can lock back in when aiming down sight. The problem with this is with high zoom optics, like when sniping, for instance, if you have this below 1, it becomes really difficult to track moving targets since you're zoomed in so far. So I actually increase this value a little bit up to 1.1 for any like sniper scope style optics. Then of course we have aim assist on. I don't use gyro controls at all. Then for movement, a lot of people like using sprint assist. I just don't bother with it. I leave that off, but obviously use the settings that work well for you. Same with mantle assist and crouch assist. I leave both of those off as well. For corner slice, this is something that was in Black Ops 6 and it's still here in Black Ops 7. I personally don't really like it. This is that first person animation where it looks like your character will like lean around the corner as you approach. But keep in mind, this is first person only. This doesn't give you any actual gameplay advantage from a third person perspective. So from what the enemy can see, this doesn't make you like a harder target to shoot or anything. And as a result, I just found that it was creating unnecessary movement on the screen that I'd rather not see. So I turned that off entirely. And now let's get into probably the most interesting new setting with Black Ops 7 since we have the wall jump. This is our wall jump assist. By default, this is off if I remember correctly, and you can go forward only. So that means if you jump into a wall forward, it will automatically bounce off of that wall without you having to press any additional buttons. Or there's the sideways only option, which does the same thing, but not if you're jumping forward at the wall, only if you're jumping sideways into the wall. Or you could just turn this on entirely, and with this, if you just jump into a wall, regardless of the direction you're facing, it will bounce you off that wall automatically. Although, quick note here, it doesn't work if you jump backwards into the wall, so only sideways or forward, not literally every direction. For me, sideways only makes the most sense, and it feels the best. Forward only, I find, gets a little bit annoying. I don't like accidentally bouncing off a wall when I jump forward into it. Whereas sideways, generally if I'm jumping sideways into a wall, it's usually an intentional thing that I'm doing. Sometimes not. I will hit the odd wall jump that I didn't mean to here or there. But for the most part, if I'm jumping sideways into a wall, it was intentional. And that's why I like having this wall jump assist set to sideways only. For active roll assist, I think this only comes into play into Warzone with the perks. So I'm not touching that because I don't really play Warzone and we don't really know how that's all going to work out yet. So I may change that down the road. We'll see. Then when it comes to our slide dive behavior, I have this on tap to slide, and I like a short activation delay on this. That one is personal preference, but I like that. I just find it feels a little more responsive. Then I just leave all of these settings on, our airborne mantle, our sprint restore, slide maintain sprint. I leave those on, and I think everything here is all default from there on out. One thing to point out though here is for those of you guys that just really don't like wall jumps and you find yourself accidentally bouncing off walls when you didn't mean to, and you find that it's just getting in the way more than it's helping, you can just turn the setting off entirely and then you will never wall jump at all. I personally kind of like the wall jump and I will be using it, so obviously I'm going to leave that to press. Now, getting into our combat settings, I don't believe I've actually changed anything here. This is all just standard. Even my advanced behavior, I leave this all totally standard. So that's pretty much it for the controller settings. For graphics, I am on PS5. I just make sure I keep 120 Hz refresh rate on. Importantly, regardless of your platform, I would turn motion blur off, both world and weapon motion blur, depth of field off. For the Fidelity FX CAS, I like having that on and set to 50. That just sharpens the image a little bit without going totally overboard. I just find that's a nice middle ground. And I personally use the on-demand texture streaming with the optimized setting. That's because I have tons of bandwidth to spare and this hasn't caused any issues for me at all. If you are on a lower bandwidth connection, I would probably consider lowering this to minimal, but for me, I've had no issues whatsoever using optimized. Now, for my view, I don't like activating any of these settings because it changes a bunch of the other settings automatically, like your FOV and stuff. I like changing all that manually. So my field of view, I like 105 with the affected setting when aiming down sight. That means when you aim down sight, you're not aiming down sight way too far. You keep a little bit of that zoomed out feeling so you can see a bit more going on around you. And it also gives you the impression of reduced visual recoil, but that's just a perspective thing. It doesn't actually reduce your recoil at all. For the weapon field of view, I like wide. Realistically, this doesn't make that much of a difference regardless of the setting, but I use wide on that. And then for the camera settings, I just make sure I set the camera movement to the least value at 50%. Now for audio, just use whatever you'd like. I like the Treyarch mix so far, it's working well for me. I also like reducing tinnitus sound since I do suffer from tinnitus and that's not very fun. And I also turn music off, but that's largely because I'm just sitting in menus most of the day and that does affect me. And I like to turn my dialogue volume down to 80 so I can still hear it. I can still hear those cues, but it doesn't get in the way of the more important gameplay sound cues that I might want to hear in the moment. Then for interface, I just make sure I turn on these telemetry options. I want to show my latency as well as packet loss so I can see on the screen if anything is going on that's causing issues, as well as in-game alert icons that will pop up if you are experiencing like heavy packet burst or latency variation, for instance. And that's pretty much it. That's gonna wrap it up for all of the settings that I'm currently using in the Black Ops 7 beta. Like I said, there's really not too many surprising settings here outside of that wall bounce activation setting with the sideways only. That's like the one key setting I'd recommend making an adjustment to and trying out. Outside of that, if you played Black Ops 6 and had settings you were comfortable with in that game, then use them in this game and it should feel just fine. And with that, I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about the wall jump assist setting? Have you guys found that sideways only is also working best for you, or do you prefer one of the other options? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.